Hey, welcome back, Money Vikings. Thanks a lot for joining me, and I'm really happy to see you and to have this conversation with you. If you get value out of Money Vikings content, please consider liking and subscribing. But with that, I've got a really interesting one for you today. It's 5 ways to practice financial self care. So, 5 ways to do personal finance self care that I think will really come in handy. And I think doing these things on an annual or even a 6 month basis will definitely help keep us trending in the right direction. And if we do fall off the tracks a little bit, we can get ourselves realigned. And I think many people at the moment have fallen off the tracks. I think it's a particularly stressful time at the moment in terms of personal finance. Credit cards are at an all-time high. Homeowners are definitely feeling stuck. Inflation has definitely taken a bite out of things. It's an ironic environment because, in general, job security and unemployment is pretty low. So, people that want jobs have jobs. And apparently, salaries are steadily ticking up, but they're not really keeping up with inflation. So, that's why it makes investing in personal finance and checking in and having good personal finance hygiene is more important than ever. So here's 5 ways to do some self-care. And at Money Vikings, we do a lot of combining health with wealth, with collectibles and other things to blend into a life of true wealth. So I like the whole concept of adding this whole self-care element to personal finance. So the first one I'm going to talk about is very interesting, and it's something I think we need to do sometimes. It's revisiting a budget. And in general, I have not been the best over the years of having an elaborate budget or spreadsheets and that kind of stuff. And I know some people are, and I'm quite envious of people that are able to do that because I think it's great. I've been more of a simple budget guy, so I basically make lists of things. So, I just have to keep things simple, and maybe that's just the way I am. But I have to make lists of my expenses and lists of my income. And at the end of the day, I want to make sure that all the expenses are less than income. That's my very simple budget. And I list everything. And then I start from highest expense, typically something like a mortgage or a car payment, and I list it all the way down in order to the lowest expense. So it'd be something like, mortgage, then car payments, and then, cell phone bill, food bill's up there as well, insurance, et cetera, et cetera. So list all the expenses that are monthly expenses. Some things I'll take averages of, so dining out or takeout or whatever. It fluctuates a little bit, but there is a pattern to things that you'll find that you sometimes end up being pretty close every month. So that's the first thing. Number one is revisit your budget. It's a great time to do that. And I did it recently. I found some subscriptions that were old that I really wasn't using, and that shaved 20, 30 bucks a month off the budget right away, just canceling those. Took 5 minutes to go cancel them. But again, just a simple list. That's how I do it. There's great ways to do it out there. There's great spreadsheets, and I would say go to town. I'd say the more thinking and thought we can put into this, we're then really scrutinizing. See, the important thing about budgets is that budgets are intention. That's what a budget is. A budget puts your money where your mouth is. It puts your money into your highest priorities. Clearly, something like housing and real estate is a very high priority for 99% of humans. So that's usually the biggest expense, and that's number one. The next thing is obviously food. We have to feed ourselves as well. But I just want you to think of a budget as a tool, because I don't think many people naturally like budgeting. So my advice on budgeting is think of it as a tool to align your resources with your highest priorities. That's budgeting. Again, it's a tool to align your resources with your highest priorities. For some people, they may really not like going out to eat, for example, but they really want to go on a pretty nice vacation to some new place every year. Well, that's a really good example of they're just taking all that money they would have spent eating out and they're putting it into something that's a higher priority for them. And it's a really great way to live a life of true wealth because then you're really aligning things properly. So that's number one. Number two is to check your portfolio. And not to check it to obsess over individual stocks, but to check it for portfolio balancing. And I would say to check it in terms of overall construction, not getting into, oh, this stock was bad, that one was good. Generally speaking, I'm a big fan of ETFs and funds and a diversified approach. As I did in my last video, I laid out my entire portfolio construction, and I'll put a link to that at the end of this video. Or just check it out at our Money Vikings YouTube channel. You'll find it pretty high there. But the point being, you might find that you want to be, you're just feeling like you want to be a little more risky or a little less risky. Maybe you realize you do have a longer time horizon to that when you're going to access these funds. Therefore, you might want to rebalance a little bit and add more exposure to equities. Or maybe you're just feeling like you did pretty well for a few years and you want to pull back a little bit and you want a little more in cash and bonds. It's all a personal choice, and it's all your own personal risk tolerance and the kind of goals that you're going for. So that's a second thing, is check your portfolio for balancing. And portfolios can tend to get out of balance over time. So what can happen is, as the winners sort of take off in a certain portfolio, they start to really outweigh the losing stocks. And so what happens is a portfolio can be really heavy in a couple of equities over time, and that might be actually too risky of exposure to just a few companies. So just food for thought right there. Okay, number 3, I think another great way to check in with your personal financial health and to do some self-care is to do an annual net worth calculation. Find out how your net worth is going. Find out, did it increase? Did it decrease this year? For the most part, we want to be in a place where it's steadily going up every year. There's going to be years where I think it's going to be tough. Housing might go down a little bit, or stocks might go down a little bit, or maybe you had a couple of big expenses that came up, or maybe you wanted to take some sort of big elaborate trip that you've been planning for the last 10 years. So those things are going to drain the account a little bit, and they're going to affect your net worth or your bottom line. Or maybe you just recently did take out like a big car loan, so that's going to dent your net worth. But it's really good to calculate it, I think, on an annual basis for a couple of reasons. Number one thing that's been really fun is you'll actually look back and you'll be pretty happy if you get some things. I talk a lot about automating, and if you're getting things pretty well in check with your spending and your credit cards and all that, and then you're automating a lot of your investing, what you're going to find is that you'll look back 10 years and you'll look at an old 10-year statement of your net worth, and you're going to be like, whoa, that's so cool. Like, I really did make a leap. 10 years ago, you might have been at, my total net worth. And for those who don't know, net worth is basically calculating the value of all your assets minus all your liabilities and debts. And then what comes out of it is a number. Hopefully it's positive. If it's negative, that's a bad situation. That's something that really needs a lot of attention and fixing, in my opinion. If it's positive, you're in the right track, in my opinion. And if it's growing each year, you're definitely on the right track. But you might look back and say, "Wash, 10 years ago, I had a net worth of, $10,000 or $20,000. And then 10 years later, if you're doing a lot of the right things, you might be at 250 or 300 or 400, and you're going to go, wow, look at that. I really made that grow. So that's the third one right there. Okay, number 4. I think it's important to think either. I'm a big person about lists. I like writing things out. I really think that's an important tool. But listing your priorities for that year. There's going to be certain years where maybe you're going to go on a trip that you want to go on. Or maybe there's going to be years where you really do need to get a new vehicle. And I would just say try to set your intentions and priorities for that year. Maybe there's a year where you really want to buckle down and increase your net worth and really pad your emergency fund and savings. And that in itself is going to be the goal. It's not going to be some outside thing like buying a car or a new suit or whatever it might be, or going to some place. It's going to be more about just trying to increase your net worth and get your finances in order. But I really think writing down your priorities is really helpful and having those in front of you. Okay, the 5th one is this. Do a scrub of all your automation. Is automation working for you or against you? And what I mean by that is, we talk a lot about automation in terms of automating investments every 2 weeks into your 401k, automating extra money into a brokerage account, automating into savings. Okay, you got all that. But you have to remember things like, Netflix and all the subscriptions that we tend to sign up for, those are also automations. They're automatic deductions. So my point is, take a real close assessment of all those automations. Are the automations working for you over time? Are you trending properly, or are they working against you? And clear out the ones that aren't working for you and increase the ones that are going to work for you for now and into the future. So those are my 5 ways to do a financial self checkup sort of thing right there, and a health checkup for your personal finances. I hope that helps, and we'll see you all on the next one, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Take care.